Business continuity plan. What is a business continuity plan? Sometimes they simply refer to it as BCP. A business is exposed to different kinds of threats at different times. We should ensure what have we done, what are the controls that we have taken to ensure that the business continues despite all the threats. Are we aware of all the threats? Are we aware of all the risks? And have we done enough to take care of them? So let us just see what is business continuity plan, what we understand, right? Come rain, come shine, come snow, business must continue. Right, students? Okay, let's see. A BCP must identify, BCP, business continuity plan, must identify the exposure of the organization to internal and external threats. So first and foremost, be aware. A business does not just run. There are so many threats. We should always be prepared for the same. The business may simply burn down. An employee may commit a fraud. So many things can happen. Right? So BCP refers to the processes and procedures that are carried out by an organization for what? What are the processes? What are the procedures which will ensure that essential business functions continue to operate with minimal disruption, and how the critical resources and assets of the organization will be protected in case of a disaster or emergency. So business must continue. What is a business continuity plan that you have? What are the risks that you have been aware of, and what controls have you exercised to ensure that this essential business functions always continue to operate with minimal disruption, come what may. Maybe an emergency, maybe a disaster, maybe some other lesser threat. That is a business continuity plan. Business continuity plan may consist of two levels of policies and procedures: data backup policies and procedures, and disaster recovery policies and procedures. This is how we have subdivided it, just an informal classification so that we can cover a few angles. That's all. So what is data backup? So first we will cover what is data backup. You understand? Whatever data today we've done, see what happens is one of our most important assets is the information that we have. Remember, this is what we were talking about all the while. So how do you protect this information? One of the ways is, of course, to take a backup. What is the backup we take? Whatever transaction is done, each day a backup is taken, so that in case for some reason that information is lost, we can recover it from the backup. We can restore it from the backup. And disaster recovery policies and procedures. This is called DRP. Very often we consider BCP and DRP as same in one, because DRP is the major element of a business continuity plan. Physical assets, of course, we've not considered. Insurance, there may be a lot of physical assets. For those, we normally take insurance policies to protect them. Largely here we are considering measures which are to do with the systems control and security measures. Okay, students? So let us first understand data backup policies and procedures. Data backup. Okay. What is backup? What, where, and when? What is a backup? Where should this backup be stored? And when should the backup be taken? Yes or no? So what is a backup? Backup is copying the files, maybe data and program, both preferably, to a tape or some offline media. Keep it somewhere else. So we always have a backup. This is online. There is something in the system. If for some reason the system were to crash, we were to lose it, we still have everything on another media from where we can restore the same information. And where should such backup be stored? Remember, backup should preferably be stored at a remote place. So sometimes we take two kinds of backup. One, we keep it at the location itself, because if we need it immediately, but it is it should be considered absolutely essential. Shall I say mandatory? Mandatory that we keep one set of backup at a remote location, because suppose a disaster were to strike, Suppose you were to have a fire in the office, you would lose both the original data and the backup data. Yes or no? So absolutely mandatory that backup should be stored at a remote, secure location. And of course, again, the security of this location also should be periodically verified. We try to keep it in a different place so that hopefully the same disaster will not strike at both the places. Followed. So what is a backup? Where should it be stored? When should a backup be taken? Of course, a backup has to be taken. Backup has to be taken every day. A routine backup of all files, both data and program, should be made at least once a month. That's a master backup of everything together. But other than that, most organizations take a daily backup of their data during the slow processing time. So when there's not too much of activity, the time is spent in taking the data. What kinds of backup we take? Do we take the entire backup or is it an incremental backup? We will again discuss later. So the entire as a master backup, very often they are taken once a month, complete full backup. But everyday transactions are also done every day. The backup of the data, daily backup, because we do a lot of transactions, so much of activity, so much of information is stored. A backup is taken daily. Okay, so we did the what is a backup, where should it be stored, and when should a backup be taken. Why do you need a backup storage? Now, hardware can be replaced for a price, but each organization's data that is unique, indispensable. If it is destroyed, it cannot be replaced. So we need a backup. If destroyed, it cannot be replaced, right? So to ensure that the data lost due to some malfunctioning or viruses or inadvertent errors, natural disaster, etc. can be to ensure that we have the data. If data is lost in one place, we can recover it. Restore. The term normally is we restore the backup. Yeah, that is why we need a backup. How to do backup? There are different methods to this. We'll briefly discuss a few of them. There is one called an electronic vaulting. Data is transferred electronically to the remote backup site. So instead of taking it, it's transmitted, but it is to a remote site. So there is always backup kept at a distant place, and we are not even physically moving it. It is being transmitted electronically. What is this called? Electronic vaulting, you know. Next is a grandfather-father-son processing. Grandfather-father-son. Okay. Under this method, the most recent 3 generations, that is 3 days of backup, are always retained. So if a file is lost during processing, it can be reconstructed from the most recent clean backup file. So we keep backup 1, then we have backup 2, then we have backup 3. Right? On the 4th day when we take a backup 1 is erased and we take the new backup on tape 4. So tape 4 has replaced tape 1 or data which was there on tape 1. So always we have a grandfather-father-son process. This is because, like I said, day 1 process we have taken a backup first, second and the third day. For some reason, when we try to restore data from the third and the most recent one, if it is not available, for some reason that has got corrupt, anything could have happened. Somebody did not take the backup, as simple as that. Was supposed to be taken, did not take. You understand? So many things can happen. Sometimes we make the rules, we just don't implement them. Yes or no? Then at least we have the previous days, so that only the transactions for the last day will have to be again reworked, redone. You understand? Grandfather, father, son processing. What else? Master file, a master and transaction files. Transaction files are created, they are committed and added to the master file at intervals. Backup of the entire database is then generated and this becomes a checkpoint. In case of system failure, it is restarted from the last checkpoint. So first we create a transaction file. After that only they are committed and added to the master file. So transaction files, the moment they are created, they may not be added to the master file. Right? Transaction files. There is a master file, full backup is there, it is restored. Transaction files are updated to the master file only periodically. Maybe every 2 days, end of the day, end of the week, whatever. Okay. Once it is updated, again we take a backup of the entire database. Again we start from that. So in case there is any loss, then we just have to update for that remaining period. Day 1, day 2, day 3 over day 4 there is a crash. We have the original master file, and then if all the transaction files have crashed, we just have to redo the transactions of day 1, day 2 and day 3. Follow? Uninterrupted power supply. What do you do if there is power failure, students? Power failure. Then what can happen suddenly? It's not just that we stop working, that is of course there is a loss of the hours, but sometimes in a sudden search like that, data could also get lost. So this will protect in case of power failure, so that we may even have a software so that there is an orderly, proper shutdown of the system. Maybe we get a half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. But slowly all files, because several applications across the organization may be open, they all have to be shut down, closed, and then we can close the system neatly, orderly fashion without causing any data to crash. Followed? We are just discussing some of the techniques, students. Now, what are the types of backups? You might have a full or normal backup where all the files selected are backed up irrespective of whenever the previous backup was made. So, a backup of even those files which have not been modified at all since the last backup will be made. Full backup, normal, though there was no change, right? All files are simply backed up. That is a full backup, or it's called a normal backup. Then there is an incremental backup where only those files that were modified since the last time a backup was made. Last time a backup was made, either a full backup or an incremental backup. We'll change only one. So let us say on day 0 you had full backup. Day 1, only day 1 transactions. Day 2, only day 2 transactions. 3, only day 3 transactions. This is how backup is done. Follow? Now what will happen? Again after a month, after a week, a full backup will be there. Maybe on day 7 there will anyway be a full backup. But otherwise, you have the full backup on day 0. You have a separate backup of day 1, day 2, day 3. So what happens if there is any crash? Suppose on day 4 there is a crash. Then what will happen? We will restore from here, then restore, then we will restore 0, day 0, plus day 1, plus day 2, plus day 3. Alright? So incremental backups are the fastest and take the shortest time because only the additional files are being backed up. If you had to do a full thing, it might take 3 hours to process. But if you are doing only additional files, it might just take us 15 minutes, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour. Yes or no? So incremental backups are very fast, takes a short time. But if you need to restore, they are more time consuming to restore. Then see, you have to do the full backup, then day 1, then day 2, then day 3. So restoring becomes a little bit of a problem. Clear? Differential backup. A backup is made of all the files from the last backup. Restoring a backup is easier. Restore the last full backup and the most recent differential backup. Is it clear? So day 0 here you have done full backup. Day 1 transactions. Day 2, all transactions. I'll write day 1 and day 2 transactions. Day 3, day 1 plus day 2 plus day 3. Why are we taking this? Because we take all transactions from the last full backup. From the last full backup. So this will take, as the days go by it becomes slower and slower, more and more backup has to be taken. But what is the advantage? They are easier to restore. Differential backups are easier to restore. Incremental backups result in smaller and faster. Can I write backups? Result in smaller, faster backup. Faster backup, but restore is more difficult. More time consuming to restore. Differential backups are easier to restore, but as the days go by, it becomes more and more time consuming. Hello? Next, let us look at some hardware controls. Hardware controls. You have duplicate circuitry. Duplicate circuitry, two circuits, refers to the double wiring of key hardware elements so that if one circuit malfunctions, the other will take over. So that it's not suddenly lost, right? Business continuity. We don't want one circuit fails, so data is lost. We cannot work. It should not happen like that. It should continue to operate. So you have double wiring. If one circuit stops, the other immediately takes over. You have echo checks. Data received is stored and also transmitted back to its point of origin where it is compared with the original data. We had also discussed echo check when we did certain controls. Yes or no before. Echo check to ensure the data transmitted is correct. Dual reading, again, along with echo check and dual reading could be there, where data is read twice during input so that we ensure that it is correct. Diagnostic checks. This is a hardware control. Various components and peripherals of the computer system are working properly. So the moment it is switched on itself, a kind of diagnostic check is done. If not, an error message so that we know. Otherwise, we may not be aware of something not working in the background and continue to do our work. And some things may just not be recorded. Yes or no? Some. Then there is a parity check. Parity check may be a bit difficult to understand unless you have some background, some knowledge about IT. But basically, when you talk of a parity check, a byte is a memory unit, right? This byte is a memory unit and byte is made up of bits. This bits may be 7-bit or 8 bits, correct? Now, what does a parity check do? A parity check is supposed to identify the errors during data transfers between hard disk and the memory. Actually, parity check ensures accuracy during any data transmission. But since we are looking at hardware controls, you need to remember only this much, students, that when during data transmission, even data transfers between the hard disk and the memory, a parity check is done and it helps to know if data is not being correctly transmitted. But for those who may be interested, remember a byte consists of certain bits. Each byte, which is a memory unit, consists of maybe 7 bits, 8 bits, 10 bits, depending on the code that is being used. Right? Now, if you have two communicating devices, they may agree on an odd parity or an even parity. We may decide that let's have an odd parity or let's have a even parity. Suppose we have decided on an even parity. Okay, we have decided on an even parity. Now when the sending device sees every set for every say 7-bit set. Suppose I'm taking a 7-bit set. If I'm taking a 7 bits, and we see the number of set bits here is even, then the parity bit will become 0. Parity bit will be 0. If we see if the sending device sees that the number of set bits is odd, in a 7-bit group, then the parity bit is kept as 1. So the summation will always be even. The summation will always be even. So that is a check which the receiving, because they've decided on a parity check, and they ensure that it is always even, and if it is not, they know that there is a difference. This is one of the basic checks. Basic data transmission check. Next, let us look at the disaster recovery plan. Remember what we said was, there is data backup and there is disaster recovery plan. What is disaster recovery policies? Disaster, there is a fire, there is a flood. What are the policies? A DRP focuses on recovering IT resources in case of a disaster. It's the ability to restore data or applications in case the data center or other infrastructure are damaged or destroyed. There is a disaster. If disaster strikes, will the business continue? We are talking of a business continuity plan, and disaster recovery policy is one of the key elements of a business continuity plan. Is it clear? So the disaster recovery is the ability. So we've lost data. There has been a fire, there has been a flood, there's been an earthquake. We've lost a lot of data. Are we in a position now to restore the data? Or not? DRP is the most important element of a BCP. BCP being Business Continuity Plan. DRP, Disaster Recovery Plan. Okay. Is there a difference? They are often used interchangeably. So when we say BCP, the first thing we do is to try and do up a DRP. That's the first thing we do, because that's how we identify. But BCP, the Business Continuity Plan, is actually wider in scope, and DRP is a huge part of a good business continuity plan. BCP is a proactive approach, but DRP is a reactive approach, in the sense that once disaster strikes, these policies will become effective. BCP considers the larger picture and starts with the business impact analysis. What is the impact? What will be the impact on the business? That is what the Business Continuity Plan seeks to do. Disaster recovery policies. A disaster recovery plan should be framed and documented as a part of the BCP. This is your plan. I have a plan. This plan should be tested, should be reviewed regularly and duly updated. Very important. As anything, any change should be updated, should be reviewed regularly, because when we first make up a plan, there may be many things which do not occur to us. So sometimes we call in consultants, sometimes during an audit, many things come up. So the plan should be reviewed and duly updated. It should also be tested. So periodically a disaster may be simulated. Act as if there is a disaster and then tested for any weakness. So in many places you have the fire alarms going off to see whether the evacuation of people, etc., is going on properly. It's called the fire drill, right? so may be simulated so that it can be tested for any weakness. Current copy of the plan should be kept outside the office with every member of the DRP team. So the copy of the plan, every member of a DRP team. Therefore, we should have a DRP team too, and a copy of the plan should be there with the DRP team. A DRP team is the next important thing, with responsibilities of each member clearly specified. They should be trained. Because once disaster strikes, we cannot afford to panic. But they should be thoroughly trained. They should be capable to lead in a situation of crisis. They should have a team leader. And an alternative team leader. Suppose that particular team leader is not on site on that particular day. So they should have a team leader and an alternate team leader. Alternative facility in case disaster should be specified. That's a disaster recovery side. So first you need a plan and you need a team. It should be identified and kept very essential, because you cannot start acting after the disaster strikes. It's best to be prepared. What is disaster recovery sites? A disaster recovery site may be what is called a hot site, okay. Maybe a warm site, okay. Or maybe a cold site, or what else could it be? Okay, it could be a mobile site. It could be a mobile site, a disaster recovery site. What are we talking about, students? What's a disaster recovery site? Hot site. Hot sites are referred to as duplex systems, and it is a backup facility which has a computer system similar to the one which is used regularly. Duplex system runs simultaneously with regular system. So when my system is operating in location A, this system is also doing exactly the same operations in another location B. Is it clear? That's called a hot site. So what happens if this turns down? No problem. Immediately the other one starts. Followed, if the regular system fails, an automatic switch to the backup is triggered. That's a hot site. That's a hot site. What is a warm site? This is also a backup site. It's similar to a hot site, except that it has the required hardware and software. In a very short time, it can immediately start working, but it does not have live data. So your systems are all there. You want to start operations, you can have, but the live data is not there. You might have to restore from backup. So if the warm site is to be used, the current data will have to be restored with. So we have backups, right? With the help of backups, we have to restore the data and then start operation. So there is a little more loss of time. In a hot site, it gets done immediately, right? It's a cold site. Cold site, what will happen? A cold site is a location where space, electricity, air conditioning are available. That's it, but not the hardware. We have to install equipment. We have to install personnel on a short notice. If an organization uses a cold site, it should ensure that arrangements can be made quickly. So if I have identified a huge area or place and I decide that will be the cold site, this is where I will run my operations, I should also be sure that I will get the necessary people, I will be able to get the necessary equipment quickly, put it in place and get it operational. So hot site, everything is there, the hardware, the software, the data, live data, it's continuously working. If I switch off one, switch off the original, the one, for some reason it switches off, I can just go and start in this hot site, at the hot site. In case of warm site, what is it? You have the hardware and the software, only live data is not there, and that has to be restored, and then you are functional. So it will take a little more time. A cold site, you have the space, you have electricity, you have the air conditioning, everything is available, but you might have to install your equipment. You might have to install equipment, software and personnel. What we should ensure if there is a cold site is that such arrangements can be made within a reasonable amount of time. Yes or no? Actually not reasonable, I should say it should be made quickly, right? We can't go and put it in some remote area and expect all this to be arranged fast. So we should ensure that it can get operational. What was the fourth site, student? What was this? That's right, it's a mobile site. Mobile site. A mobile site is a disaster recovery site on wheels. It may be hot, warm or cold. Yes or no? Usually it's like a trailer. It has electricity and air conditioning inside. That's a cold site. It may have only the computer equipment, which is a warm site, or both equipment and live data, which is a hot site. Yes or no? This may be hot. This may be the warm site. Yes or no? Definitely cold site. Mobile is definitely at least a cold site. It may be warm or hot depending on what it has, what it contains. Alright? Next, students, the quiz. Oh, this is the final quiz, and are we ready? Everything so far. Okay, let's start. Which of the following operating procedures increases an organization's exposure to computer viruses? Which of the operating procedures increases our exposure to virus? Be clear, understand the question with respect to system controls, etc. Sometimes you have to just think logically. Encryption of data files. B. Frequent backup of files. C. Installing original copies of purchased software on hard disk drives. D. Downloading public domain software from websites. When am I exposed to a virus? If I encrypt data, why should I be exposed to a virus? I'm sending data and I'm encrypting it so that the authorized person receives it. Yes, if I take frequent backup of files, there is no reason I should have viruses, right? I'm always encouraged to install original copies of purchased software, because if I take some other pirated software, there could be viruses. Yes or no? Then the option is left. Let's look at that. Downloading public domain software from websites. Yes, this is the problem, students. Yes or no? You can be exposed to computer virus if you download public domain software from websites. That's why very often organizations do not allow us within the system, within the organization, to download any such software unless authorized by the IT department. Which of the following backup techniques is most difficult to restore? Is it a full backup, incremental backup, differential backup, or all of the above are equally difficult? Incremental backup is difficult to restore. Which of the following backup techniques is the most space efficient? The full backup, incremental backup, differential backup, or all of the above? Most space efficient is also incremental. Why? Because only the additional one. Day 1, only day 1, only day 2, only day 3, only day 4. So it's very space efficient. But full backup means everything is being taken. Differential means if day 0 full backup was taken, day 1 you will take day 1's backup, day 2 you will take day 1 and day 2. You will take all backup from when the last full backup was taken. Yes or no? So as the days go by, it will require more and more space and time. Followed? So incremental backup is the most space efficient. Turnaround documents. What are they? Turnaround documents, A, are generated by the computer and eventually returned to it. B, they generally circulate only within the computer center. C, are only used internally in an organization, are largely restricted to use in a manual system. Only in a manual system? Of course not. They are used only internally in an organization? No. They circulate within? No. They actually go out and come back. Turnaround documents are generated by the computer and eventually returned to it. Like invoices, like bills sometimes. You give, it will come back, there will be a portion of it, an acknowledgement slip, right, which can be torn and that will act as a receipt for the turnaround documents. An internal firewall is designed to provide adequate protection against, is it a computer virus? A. B. Authenticated logins from outside users. C. Insider leaking of confidential information. D. A Trojan horse application. An internet firewall is designed to provide adequate protection against unauthenticated logins from outside users. There is a firewall, there is a wall there. Now you cannot cross the wall. Most of today's computer systems have hardware controls that are built in by the computer manufacturer. Common hardware controls are, what are some of the hardware controls? Duplicate circuitry, echo check, internal header labels. B. Duplicate circuitry, echo check and dual reading. Tape file protection, cryptographic protection and limit checks. Duplicate circuitry, echo check, tape file protection and internal header labels. Tape, what is this tape file protection? Tape is a separate device, right? So this is duplicate circuitry, echo check and dual reading are the hardware controls. Internal header labels, etc. is on the data. Is on the data which is being sent. Which of the following statements is false? A. Data encryption helps protect information from unauthorized access. B. Routing verification procedures check that data is delivered to the correct address. C. Antivirus software regularly updated is the best defense against viruses, Trojan horses and worms. D. Firewalls are designed principally to detect unauthorized access from the internet. See, data encryption, information from unauthorized people cannot access it. Yeah, they know the source, they know the destination. Right. Routing verification will ensure it goes to the correct thing. Antivirus is the best defense against viruses and trojans. Firewalls are designed principally to detect unauthorized access from the internet. Why is this wrong? It's not to detect, it is simply to prevent. You just cannot come in. They are not bothering about the detection. Is it clear? The most critical aspect of separation of duties within information systems is between programmers and systems analysts, B. Programmers and project leaders, C. System analysts and users, D. Programmers and computer operators. See, the system analyst will analyze. Based on his analysis, then further there will be design. The programmers will key in the program. Programmers and the project leaders. Fine. System analysts and the users. Separation of duty. System analysts. Very often the users have to help the system analyst, right, in understanding the particular system. This is very, very critical, students. You cannot have the same person who is a programmer and a computer operator. He can easily change the codes. Yes or no? Enter wrong data, enter any data if he is also a programmer. This is the most critical separation that we need. Programmers and computer operators cannot be one and same. Alert? See, just imagine, he's programmed, he knows the programming code and he's also operating. So every time he could operate, he could easily make changes, he could create some small changes in the program so that money gets transferred to a separate account. So many things can be done, right? Which of the following statements are true? A. General controls provide controls over the electronic functioning of the hardware. General controls provide controls of the physical access to the computer system. General controls relate to the general environment within which the transaction processing takes place. D. All of the above. Yes, students, all of the above. Those are the general controls, right, about the environment, the physical access to the computer, electronic function of the hardware, all the general controls. Application controls is related to each application. The best preventive measure against a computer virus is to A. Compare software in use with authorized versions of the software. Execute virus exterminator programs periodically on the system. C. Allow only authorized software from known sources to be used on the system. Prepare and test a plan for recovering from the incidence of a virus. The best preventive measure. Compare the software in use with authorized versions. Point of comparing. Execute the virus exterminated programs periodically on the system. So that means virus could have come in and then you are getting rid of the virus. That's not really preventive. Allow only authorized software. This is the best prevention you can do. Have only authorized software from known sources to be used in the system. Prepare and test a plan for recovering the incidents. For recovering from. Again, this is not preventive. This is not preventive. This is not preventive. Yes or no? So the best preventive measure is to have only authorized software. A company's management wants to maintain the confidentiality of its information as it is transmitted. The company should utilize A. Data encryption, B. Dial-back systems, C. Message acknowledgement procedures, and D. Password codes. Transmission, data encryption. That's right. Should utilize data encryption. Which of the following statements is false? The more important the data, the greater the need for backing it up. D. A backup is as useful as its associated restore strategy. C. Storing the backup copy near to its original site is the best strategy. D. Automated backup and scheduling is preferred over manual operations. Obviously C. So once you know C, because you don't do it near the original site. So if there could be an earthquake in one location, data both, the backup will also be lost. Yes or no? So this is the worst. But having said this, go through the other three sentences, students. So they give you more and more information. The more important data, greater. Very important that I back it up. Yes or no? If not only backup, restoration is necessary. That's why we said periodically we should ensure that the restoring is working. Otherwise, we are taking backup. If it comes to the crisis situation where I have to restore, I suddenly find data is corrupted, I'm not able to restore. So periodically we should ensure that the restore function is working. And an automated backup and scheduling is always preferred over the manual operations, because sometimes, particularly when work piles up, we are a little lazy. We may, if it is manual, we may just put off taking a backup. That's a very, very bad practice. So obviously automated backup would be better. Backup of the source data can be created on the same device, be on another device, C at some other location, or all of the above. Backup can be created anywhere. Backup can be created anywhere. This is backup of the source data. What is a Trojan horse? It is a useful way to encrypt the password. It is a user which steals valuable information. It is a rogue program which tricks users, or it is a brute force attack algorithm. It is a rogue program which tricks users. Yes or no? It tricks users because we think it's a friendly teddy bear. Do you remember? We think it is something good, something interesting. And then we execute, we use it, we go to the site, we play the video game, whatever it is. And while data gets stolen from us or harmed. The major risk in relying on antivirus software is that antivirus software may A. Not detect certain viruses, B. Make software installation overly complex, C. Interfere with system operations, D. Consume too many system resources. The major risk in relying on antivirus software is that it may not detect certain viruses. That is why antivirus software also must be regularly updated. Updated means you have to buy the latest versions. Latest versions. Yes or no? A computer virus is different from a Trojan horse because the virus can corrupt data, B. Alter programming instructions, C. Replicate itself, and D. Erase executable files. It's different because the virus both will corrupt the data, both will alter the thing, but a Trojan horse does not replicate itself. So that's the difference. A Trojan horse does not replicate. Erase executable files. Okay, which of the following is an indication that a computer virus is present? How do you know it's present? Is it because there are frequent power surges that will harm the computer equipment? Is it because there is unexplainable losses of or changes to data? Is it because of inadequate backup, recovery and contingency plans? Is it because numerous copyright violations due to unauthorized use of purchased software? Power surge is something physical. How do you know there's a virus? Whenever there is unexplainable losses or changes to data, that's when you know there is a virus. If you don't take backup, that does not mean that there is a virus. Yeah, you've made unauthorized use of purchased software does not necessarily mean there is a virus. Yes or no? So unexplainable losses of data, losses or changes to data get alert. There's probably a virus infecting your files behind. Confidential data can be securely transmitted over the internet by using single user passwords, Firewall, Encryption, digital signatures. Transmission, encryption. That's right. A critical aspect of a disaster recovery plan is to be able to regain operational capability as soon as possible. In order to accomplish this, an organization can have an arrangement with its computer hardware vendor to have a fully operational facility available that is configured to the user's specific needs. This is best known as an uninterrupted power system, UPS, a parallel system, a cold site, or a hot site. Have an arrangement with the computer hardware to have a fully operational facility available, configured to the user's thing. Operational facilities available, so that's a hot site. Which of the following statements about backup and disaster recovery procedures is true? True. Okay. Disaster recovery procedures are recommended in the situation where backups are run only on a weekly basis. B. Disaster recovery procedures ensure the uninterrupted operation of the business. C. Backup procedures protect the company from complete loss of data. D. Backup procedures ensure the uninterrupted operation of the business in the event of a natural disaster that destroys the computer system. Only on weekly basis is definitely wrong. Disaster recovery procedures ensure uninterrupted operation of the business. There could be some time, right, students? Just depends on the procedure. Suppose you have a cold site. Yes or no then? Would it not take some time? There would be some interruption, but minimal, yes. Backup procedures will protect the company from complete loss. We don't lose it entirely. Some part of it will get. That seems more reasonable. Backup procedures ensure the uninterrupted operation of the business in the event of a natural disaster that destroys the computer system. No, not really. Uninterrupted operation you cannot have. You have to have another computer system in order to be able to restore. Yes or no? So C would be the best answer to this. Match the following, students. A, B, C, D, you have system maintenance, design, implementation, and system analysis. That's A, B, C, D. What do you have on the other side? 1. Describing in detail the specifications, features, operations that will satisfy the functional requirement of the system. 2. Is installing the system. 3. Monitoring the system to ensure that it performs at the desired level. 4. Understanding the existing and the proposed system. Understanding is obviously system analysis. This is match D4. Monitoring the system to ensure is a system maintenance. Yes or no? Installing the system is design. Describing in detail the specification, the features, the operations that will satisfy the functional requirement of the system. Yeah.